I have just played for you Tango in D by Albéniz, one of Spain's greatest composers. This piece is one of 6 pieces. It's number 2 from his collection called España. And he wrote this when he was living in London and doing lots of performing in the time period of 1890 to 1891. But this is not like the tango from the next 20th century from Argentina, which is quite provocative, but instead is from the previous mid-1800s, where the tango from Spain and Cuba was prevalent. That's the style of this tango. It's a sweet piece. It's gentle and tender and delicate. And it strongly resembles the Cuban habanera. Just as Albéniz did with his own piano performances, this piece moves audiences not by astonishing us, but by charming us. So how does he charm us? And how does the habanera fit in with this piece? In the key of D major, there's our triad, and D being the tonic. And the rhythm that he starts for the intro of this piece is the habanera. Yum, ba bum bum, yum, ba bum bum bum. He gives us the tonic as an octave in the bass, and the right hand plays the D major triad. So everything is very etched in D major with the habanera rhythm like this. Intro, 2 measures. Then the piece officially begins with the theme 1 in the most imaginative and delightful and charming way, with the triplet, with the melody, beginning on the 3rd scale degree, F sharp. And this is the melody that we recognize as Tango in D. And the next little phrase goes up again to the F sharp and a falling 3rd. The 3rd little fragment joins now with the alto, and we have a duet in 3rds. And the last fragment the only thing that doesn't sound like D major is that ending here. And that creates a little bit of piquancy as a suspension into the resolution. So the left hand on this, starting in measure 3, which is really where theme 1 begins, is very simple. Listen to how that sounds by itself. Now that D sharp is not in the key of D major, so that's an altered tone there. Going on, this matches the last 2 little fragments of the melody. So I really hear this opening 8 measure theme 1 divided into 4 measures and 4 measures. And we want to shape the entire 8 measures with this in mind. So if I start now with the hands together as written, this opening measure 3, next fragment. Now this is an exquisite moment, and I see the dancers lifting and slightly pausing at the top, a little bit of suspension of movement. He wants that because he's written polka retard here. With the 2nd fragment. Now now a tempo with the third fragment when we have the duet in thirds, and the last one. Now those little staccati at the end of that final fragment give the idea of the coquettishness in a very refined and elegant way. And I like to brush them. The touch in this opening 8-measure theme 1 is extremely difficult. And I'm going to spend a little bit of time at the beginning of this, particularly, let's go backwards here with that final 4th fragment. We have legato and then staccato brushed, and then a dip of the suspension of heavy light. Now what would the dancers do with that? Well, I think they would dip down and then come up. I'm going to play it one more time now, and let's visualize what the dancers are actually doing here. We're going to start with the intro. They're waiting. This is their intro. They're watching. They're looking at each other. Now comes the dance. Lifting. Without any warning, we have a brand new tonality. He's actually moved down to B minor, to the relative minor, without any preparation. And the dancers now do some very different kinds of moves. With this here, punctuated. Dissonance with the 5th and an augmented 4th, that E sharp. And the habanera also comes in very clearly with the expanded interval of a 10th. Like this. Measure 12. Triplet. Comes a retard and now a tempo. Now watch this. And if he continued the progression, he would get the low A. He does. This is a circle of 5ths for our 2nd system cadence, and resolves on the A major. Very beautiful. And a little retard there. The right hand beginning on the 2nd system. It lifts, another lift. Now a tempo, A major. And then comes the A section again, the theme 1 again. I'd like to show you now what I'm looking at here. This is a brand new engraving of the chart that I made using public domain music, but it looks completely different from anything you will find in any other edition, because I have reformatted this on the 11-inch by 17-inch horizontal landscape, and that way I get long, imagine 10 uninterrupted measures that I get all on that first system, this first page. And your chart package is a 2-page main file. This is page 1 with 4 systems and your page 2. Also 4 systems. And these are divided intentionally to show the different unique sections that the piece is. Now you see all these beautiful colors. Say, well, I really want those. And you will want those. And you will get them. I'll show you in just a second in your chart package, which you can get from my website, sallychristianmusic.com, as digital downloads. You will get your main file 2-page chart on the black and white. Very clean and open, lots of space for you to make marks and fingering changes and other notes that invariably go into our working copies. And once you get that well under your hands, then you can try to play the piece from the satellite view, which I just love. You can see this is now on the vertical 11 by 17 inch, and the entire piece is here. I need to make this before I can make the final supplement. You know from watching other videos, if you're a repeat viewer here, this is my favorite part of every chart package, the color structural analysis. This to me is the way I get deep into the mind and heart and soul of the piece when I make one of these. I learn so much in the process of making these and determining the colors that I use and the labels that I put on. Let's just take a quick overview on this. This is, you can see at the top here, that is the form, is the basic key code of the piece. A, B, C, A, D. Prefaced with 2 measures of introduction and ending with the same 2 measures of introduction. Here are the introduction measures in the dash pink box at the beginning and at the end of the piece. This is extended with the 5/1 cadence to close. Otherwise, this is identical to the beginning. Single notes at the last time in the bass, octaves the first time. Then the piece begins right here, theme 1. And there are 8 measures. That's why there are 10 measures on system 1 because of the 2 intro, but there are really 8 for this opening section. The B section, the B minor in the blue box, 8 measures. Then we go back to the A, another 8 measures. Back to the B, another 8 measures. And then the piece blooms and expands in the most glorious, exquisite way. I can't wait to get to this part, and I put it in yellow because it makes me feel like I'm bathed in glorious light at this point. Then the return again, recapitulation of the A, 8 measures, and the final close in the green box, which is the culminating section / coda. Very magnificent, where he's bringing in elements from the entire piece. Extraordinarily creative way at the end. So this is really a masterpiece. It sounds so simple, and it's very, very complex, as all great art is. We'll come back to this because there are some key differences that I've highlighted with orange marks and labels. Well, actually, I'll just tell you right now. The first time we have the left hand going up to A. The second time the left hand goes up to B. This changes. And then the third time it's the same, except this is different. But that's it. Once you've tracked those differences, you've already learned this much of the piece. So now let's go back to our main file with our system 3 with the second pink box and see how the piece unfolds. I can put this one over here. I'm going to proceed with the previous measures, 16, 17, and 18, with our beautiful descending circle of fifths in the bass. So beautiful. If I take just that again. That's very complicated, I think. I'm going to take the left hand alone. So much hands alone. Relish that. Going on. The next blue box. Triplet. Now let's put the hands together, starting one more time here. So you get the feeling now that midway with these 8 measures here, here, and here, Albéniz is doing something different. This is a great way to get your head around this piece. And when you start to make your own interpretation, you'll zero in on these pivot points within the 8 measures. So let's take this again from the second pink box. It's just like the first pink box for the first 3.5 measures. Now this triplet, I want to show you a little technique on this. The turn, you have to pull out, and these have to be very legato. Ya, da, 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 da. We can't play this too articulated. That's not going to sound nice. But it has to be more like ya da 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 dee dee ya da dee da dee dee dum na da da dee da dee dum dee dum ya da dee da dee dee dum. See if I can make the piano sound like that. Here comes the difference now. It starts to expand and get complex. There's that dissonance again with the suspension. In B minor, clear B minor. Going on to the next blue box, B minor. Now we have a soprano and tenor alternating dialogue in the triplet. The triplet plays all the way through this piece. Let's just take that dialogue first between soprano and tenor. This is measure 27. Now the bass, the tenor answers. Everybody joins in the most lovely way. And cadence to F sharp major. And then we begin that golden box. The bass at the beginning here is a pedal point on the B. And you have to hold that down with your 5th finger because it's a half note. Don't let go of it. There's that habanera. Now here's the difference. The next 4 measures goes to something new. Intentionally slowly now. The tempo of this is up to you. Ultimately I will play this a little bit faster, but I'm trying to savor these slurs and the harmonies and the touch so you can really take it in with your ears. If it goes too fast, you might miss some of the subtleties. Slow practice is so important. It's really essential part of our work, and so are hands alone. Now, speaking of hands alone, I am going to take the right hand part and redistribute. I'm going to take the right hand with the soprano, and underneath it I have half notes playing a third and a fourth. They have to be held. You see, there's a holding pattern with that B in the bass. That's in there. Going on. And over it is the duet. And hold this down. Now I'm going to redistribute. Repetition, a little different. I wouldn't play it the same way. Make the second one slightly different. And now it drops down. Here's that defining midpoint. There's the dissonance there. Resolution. It's a little sad, isn't it? It's not dissonant, but it's. And this is such a relief. And this is even more. An assignment. I always like posing this question. If you were asked in a space of 8 measures to go from the key of B minor to the key of F sharp major, how would you get there? And then you can appreciate the imagination that went into this, using this habanera in the bass. This is the dissonance. Because it's dance elements and singing elements, pianistic elements of the touch. How do we put all of this into the piece and have it make a perfect, complete vision? This takes years to do this. People ask me, how long will it take me to learn this piece? Well, it'll take you not too long to learn the notes on this one. I would call this for note-wise an intermediate piece, but to play it at master level with consummate control, technically and artistically, now that's a lifetime. Hands together here now. Speak to each other. With these alternating triplets, the soprano, the alto, retard, a tempo midway, the left hand here. This is one of my favorite parts, and I like to play with my full arms here. This is a pedal point on the F sharp tonality now. Second part. Our tempo. Now comes this marvelous mid-measure, complete new section of 4 measures, cadential material built on a descending bass line of the scale degrees like this. Now that's remarkable. If you're in this gorgeous enveloped key of F sharp major, and out of the blue, how's he going to make that work? Well, of course, what goes over it? Let's start right here with first what the tenor and the bass do together. Oh, total shock. We were here, right? And he goes, beautiful. Now notice it wasn't just the strict scale degrees, because he went up by rocking fourths from D up to G, down to C sharp, up to F sharp, B up to E, and had he continued the same progression, it would have been up to A, but in this case, it's A down to D. Same thing he did with the circle of fifths progression, altered the last direction of the closing pitch. Let me show you here with the big version here why this is so wonderful, this midway point here, and this is all marked in your music too on the color structural analysis. This descending bass broken fourths modulatory progression. So that's very important to hear that part. This becomes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-part harmony here. It's extremely rich and sophisticated writing. The page 1, this was our on the second system, the descending circle of fifths bass line. So do you see he's doing some interesting bass progressions here, here, and then one final one with our green box. So that's splendid. There's cohesion with this piece. So let's start now on that beautiful 3, 42, 41, measure 40. I like to bring out this tenor line. Gorgeous, stunning, really. The soprano. Breath. And under that, isn't that gorgeous? Play that as written with the right hand. Now you know what to bring out. You have to sustain these bottom notes. They're quarter notes. Let's take a look at this. Right here. The downward stems here, all quarter notes, must be held. But the little upper triplets are in little tiny slurs and phrases that you're going to go off. That's hard to do. Your one hand is split in two, doing 2 different elements completely. You know we're coming back home. Go back into that last yellow box one more time in context, and then I'm going to give you 2 interesting examples of a habanera that came before this one and one that came after this piece. Here we are, exquisite F sharp major, and This one I'm using straight fingers that tap in order to get this pianissimo in control. So all the notes sound, I tap with my fingertips. I'm not curving my fingers here. I'm not digging in. I'm tapping on the surface of the keys. Almost like the swimming pool. Imagine the water coming up to here. And your arms are just floating horizontal like that, weightless. And that's the touch of this. Weightless, floating, tiny little tiptoe touch on the keys. What would the dancers be doing? So elegant. Slide guitar, midpoint, a tempo. Now this abrupt modulation, progression. With that final theme one. So one of the examples of the habanera was George Bizet's opera Carmen, which he wrote in 1875. I just love this piece. And the tango was written 15 years after Carmen, and I'm sure Albéniz heard it and was inspired by Carmen. And then, 13 years later, in 1903, Debussy wrote his habanera movement called Nights in Granada from the second movement of a stomp. There's the habanera. And my point in saying this is how rich the climate was at the time with these countries and the exchange of ideas, and how one person created something and handed it basically as inspiration to the next, who then handed the torch to the next. Debussy and Ravel were greatly influenced by Albéniz, and I'm sure Albéniz was greatly influenced by Bizet. So this is all, we're all in this together, the creative process and the lineage and the links in the chain. We all play an essential role, and we stand on the shoulders of those before, and we be the shoulders for those ahead. This is really, I've done a lot of thinking about this, how the whole evolution of music and art and ideas, and the tango itself, tango if you're really going to say it correctly, has a very rich history and lineage, and it was all over South America and Cuba and Europe, and all these countries developed their own types of tangos, and they over the years and the centuries changed dramatically. But this is the early tango. The refined, originally this one was a dance for women dancers, a solo dance for women dancers. But I hear definitely the option of every combination of dancers with this piece. So now we're back to the recapitulation, measure 44. We only have 3 more systems to go. First time, let's go back to this beautiful color structural analysis so you can see where I am. I'm on the last pink box, and here's the last time the right hand does this. These 2 notes, G and B. The first time the right hand does down to E and G. that sounds, dipping first time as opposed to the second time. That's your only difference between pink box number 3 and pink box number 1. Are you ready now for the concluding 8 measures of what I think is just a bit of ecstasy and rapture here? We start with a dissonance, unexpected, of this. Next measure. Measure 3. Measure 4. Measure 5. Measure 6. Measure 7. And measure 8 doubles as the conclusion of that progression and also the introduction material. Just a gorgeous segue, how he eases us into the introductory material. And I purposely engraved this like this to have 6 measures here and this one here, because if you'll take a look here in the music, this defining sets of 4/8 rests for the 4 voices and fermatas over each hand, left hand and right hand. That's definitely a break in the piece. And then the final has another 2 fermatas, but it just holds, no rests, and goes right into from our 5/1 cadence and eases off the dance floor with the final habanera. But let's see how that really is written, because I purposely just took the outline chords of B flat major, F major, G minor, D major, B major, E minor, A major, and D major. And those are written as labels in your music, your color structural analysis. And I did that because it's that you take a little close look on that. And this is now this idea of the fourths again. Remember, on this cadence here, we had the rocking fourths of, well, he's doing rocking fourths here by B flat down to F, G down a fourth to D, B up to E, which is a fourth going up, and finally A and down a fifth. Well, that's a progression. If you think of the Pachelbel canon, that's not now transposed, it's really in D. Composers were doing that. There's another example of how a bass progression of a ground bass in that Pachelbel canon influenced composers from that point forward. And here's Albéniz using it in his own extraordinarily imaginative expansion of it. Could almost sound like it, but not here. Now, what happens when we put the habanera with that, with the 10th? This is my favorite part. That ninth. It's a minor ninth. Gentleness, the story it's telling, and the one final minor ninth as a triplet. Fermata, and D. Now these garlands, as I refer to them, they look like garlands and they sound like garlands. Big arching 2-measure phrases and then 2 littles, but these are acting as a unit of 2 measures, 2 measures, 2 measures, and your final closing measures. This is the 3rd time Albéniz has used the idea of the alternating voice. This time it's for alto and soprano, alternating dialogue. 3 times in the piece, alternating dialogues. 3 times in the piece, extraordinary bass progressions. Here's the right hand. As redistribution, starts with this beautiful dissonance. The alto leads this time. And soprano answers. Drop down here. This little pungent here, little heart stab. See what I mean about the delicacy and the tenderness? That's the kind of control you need. I'm using 2 hands. Let me see if I can get that same control as written, all with the right hand. Take a breath. This is your final 8 measures. The dancers are going to soon be off the floor, and they are maximizing these last 8 measures of giving each other these beautiful bows and expressions with their arms, and they're weaving in and out of different positions. I'm giving you ideas here, how to make your own choreography to this, to make the piece yours. Make it multi-dimensional, with multimedia, the dance and the music and the playing, performing. Let's do that again. And this has to be. Do you see how that kicks off that phrase as a separate little unit? That was nice. Habanera. Goodbye. Goodbye. One beautiful. And here I like to break this. I worked a long time with placement here. It's very difficult to do. You could facilitate this and take that D sharp in the right hand and just play. Be simple. But I prefer to bring a little pinpoint, a little diamond prism on this F sharp, that tint. Did you hear that? How that F sharp is ringing? On this piano, this gorgeous Busendorfer. These types of sounds are really otherworldly. So let's put everything together now with our concluding, culminating section, coda. And what's interesting to me, before I do this measure 52 that begins the green box material starts like this. And if I could take the measure 26, amazing. Your heart is bursting with love. And then coming to an end. Isn't that beautiful? These two thumbs on the white keys. It's exquisite to play. Do you see how I'm sliding on the keys? And pull out. That was perfect. Rest. So when you work on this tango in D, let the piece take you. Let the piece lift you. Let the piece transform you. It will do all of that. On the journey of learning this piece, it's a metaphor for a life journey of the good parts of life. The things we want to hang on to when things get tough. And we don't have any certainty, and it's dark and frightening. And we are in the year 2020 now, and everybody that's alive now knows what I'm talking about. And we have resources. We have ways of counteracting that world uncertainty and going into our own private world of beauty and peace and gentleness and sweetness. So I hope this has been helpful for you. Fall in love with the tango, and you'll have a friend for the rest of your life that you can lock arms with and go to your piano and go in your own beautiful, special dance.